This confirms it for most people. The Trump trial in New York is a sham, and President Joe Biden is really the guilty party the American people should be really looking into. First, many experts agree that this Trump hush money trial won't really move the dial on the people's voting preference this November. In their words, a criminal conviction in this current case is unlikely to play a significant role in that outcome. You just have to look at the recently conducted testimony of Michael Cohen that, according to the experts, left the prosecution of Donald Trump like its star witness in tatters. Many agree that the People versus Trump case is a dumb prosecution. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg has staked his case on the uncorroborated testimony of a convicted felon who is an admitted serial perjurer and highly biased against Trump. Cohen said so himself. He wants this man to go down and rot inside. In the final day of cross-examination, Cohen admitted to committing larceny and stealing tens of thousands of dollars from his client. Now again, this is a convicted, disbarred, serial perjurer that we're talking about here, guys. Judge Juan Merchan isn't exactly being helpful to justice either. According to legal expert Alan Dershowitz, in his 60 years as a lawyer and law professor, he has never seen a spectacle such as the one that he observes sitting in the front row of the courthouse with the judge automatically to ruling against the defendant at every turn. He pointed out one particular instance where Judge Juan Merchan asked the media to leave the room so that they wouldn't witness how the judge would have denied the defendant his Sixth Amendment right to confront witnesses and to raise a defense. Dershowitz also said Judge Merchan seemed willing to punish the defendant for something a witness was accused of doing. But really? Most people aren't even surprised at Merchan's blatant bias. As my uncle said, the rotten apple doesn't fall far from the corrupted tree. Just take a look at President Joe Biden's move to use executive privilege to stop the release of the audio from the Department of Justice Special Counsel Robert Hur's interview with him. Now, if you guys remember, this was the interview where Robert Hur concluded Biden wouldn't be able to stand trial as he'll probably present himself as a sympathetic, well-meaning, elderly man with a poor memory. The same report noted Biden's major memory lapses, like the president did not remember when he was vice president, and he did not remember even within several years when his son Beau died. It's understandable why President Biden would want to block the audio of this interview from reaching the hands of the American people. As consultant and election law attorney Mark Weaver put it, Joe Biden's handlers desperately do not want Americans to hear the actual audio showing how genuinely confused and flustered he was when questioned by criminal investigators. In fact, even before this, White House attorneys asked federal special counsel Robert Hur to revise descriptions of President Biden's memory lapses before the release of Hur's report, defending his decision to not bring charges against the commander-in-chief for retention of national security material. Suspicious? I'm gonna let y'all decide, but we'll definitely take a very close look at what the president is trying to hide here, not to mention what's really happening in the Trump trial in New York. Will it all turn out to be a sham? Stay tuned as we look into the truth in today's video. Don't go away. So here's Republican North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum discussing the New York versus Trump case and how Americans have already basically acquitted Donald Trump already. Check this out.
Well, first of all, I'd like to call it the alleged business filing error case, because that's really what the core of it is. And I think it's failed to get any traction because I think Americans see right through it. Americans have already acquitted Donald Trump. I think they realize that when you've got 5 weeks and you can't even prove or even articulate what crime has been committed. So I had a chance a week ago Tuesday to be in the courthouse with the president and observe for a whole day, not just get the filter of what the media might be telling you. And what I observed there, what I watched, that was the day that Michael Cohen went from wrapping up his the prosecution's leading set of yes and no questions to watching him get destroyed by the prosecution. And it may have been the day that he also then now is a serial perjurer, perjured himself again on that day, getting caught up in all the lies that he's had. And then the next day, on the Wednesday, I was going back to North Dakota, and I'm watching the media coverage, and it was like, I think that they were at a different trial than I was at.
Now, as many legal experts have pointed out, there's basically no crime in this New York hush money trial. So their fearless forecast, Trump gets acquitted. But seriously, would a guilty verdict even doom Donald Trump at the ballot box in the first place? Because many are commenting how a criminal conviction in this case is unlikely to play a significant role in that particular outcome. In fact, I read quite a few times in our own comment section here how guilty or not, Trump still has the people's vote. It doesn't matter. Do you guys agree? I mean, it's hard not to side with former President Trump here when you just consider the facts of the case. First, there's the prosecution's star witness, serial perjurer, and convicted disbarred lawyer, Michael Cohen. During the final day of cross-examination, Michael Cohen confessed to stealing tens of thousands of dollars from his client, which is larceny. And interestingly enough, he admitted this on the stand after the statute of limitations had expired, so there won't be any new charges against him, unlike in Trump's case. How convenient, right? The case involves the Trump Organization's business records, which includes hush money payments to Stormy Daniels. It's clear that Michael Cohen made these payments and was reimbursed by the Trump Organization with checks signed by Donald Trump and others. These reimbursements were falsely recorded as legal service fees. The main issue is whether Trump knew and approved these false entries. Now, supposedly, Michael Cohen is the only witness for the prosecution who can potentially link Donald Trump to this alleged criminal knowledge. And coincidentally enough, Michael Cohen claims that in early 2017, he and Alan Weisselberg, the CFO of the Trump Organization, agreed to disguise the reimbursement payments as legal fees. When asked if Weisselberg mentioned this plan in front of Trump, Michael Cohen confirmed it. Now, here's where the legal experts weigh in. So Michael Cohen is considered an accomplice witness, having participated in the crime and seeking a reduced sentence by testifying against Trump. In fact, he's already received leniency from federal prosecutors by providing testimony about the hush money scheme that is now being used by the current prosecutor, DA Alvin Bragg. The Supreme Court itself has noted that while accomplice testimony can lead to convictions, such witnesses often have motives to lie. So juries should be cautious and seek corroborating evidence. In this case, no corroborating witnesses are available, and Weisselberg is not testifying, likely invoking his Fifth Amendment rights. The prosecution points to the word retainer on Michael Cohen's reimbursement invoices as potential evidence of criminal intent. However, experts call this tenuous at best, especially since former Trump aide Madeleine Westerhout testified that Trump often signed checks without reviewing them. Not to mention, a conviction for false business records in New York is a misdemeanor, something that may not have been enough for Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg. Hence, Bragg's team argues that Donald Trump intended to commit another crime, which could elevate the misdemeanor to a felony. Now they're claiming the main objective was a conspiracy to influence the 2016 election. This, plus the lack of corroborating evidence, experts are already predicting that it's likely that at least one juror will have reasonable doubt about Michael Cohen's testimony, potentially leading to a hung jury and a victory for Trump. And honestly, a lot of people are already saying that these prosecutions, they've already completely destroyed the credibility of our legal system. Do you guys agree? We're not done yet either. So don't go away, as we're still going to discuss how veteran lawyer and law professor Alan Dershowitz described Judge Juan Merchan as an absolute tyrant who's basically threatened the defendant Donald Trump that he'd take away his Sixth Amendment right to confront witnesses and to raise a defense. Plus, of course, President Joe Biden leaning hard on the authorities to block those audio recordings of his from reaching the American people. I mean, can you believe this, guys? Stay tuned for more in our video right here. But first, just a quick reminder, if you appreciate the show, if you appreciate the information and expert analysis that we've been dishing out here, don't hesitate to show our community some love. Hit the like button for the video, subscribe to the channel. The more you engage with our content, the faster we can grow our community of truth and keep posting updates like this for you guys. All right, so Alan Dershowitz, 60 years as a lawyer and law professor, and he says he's never seen a spectacle such as this one that he observed sitting in the front row of the courthouse of Donald Trump's trial. He described Judge Juan Merchan as an absolute tyrant, though he appeared to the jury to be a benevolent despot. But really, according to Dershowitz, the judge seemed automatically to be ruling against the defendant at every turn. In fact, he said experienced lawyers raised their eyebrows when the judge excluded obvious relevant evidence when offered by the defense, while including irrelevant evidence offered by the prosecution. But things really went off the rails when the defendant's main witness, the experienced attorney Robert Costello, raised his eyebrows at one of New York Supreme Court Justices Juan Merchan's rulings. At that point, Judge Merchan cleared the courtroom of everyone, including the media, after the judge actually threatened to strike all of Costello's testimony if he raised his eyebrow again. And as Dershowitz explained, that of course would have been unconstitutional because it would have denied the defendant his Sixth Amendment right to confront witnesses and to raise a defense, meaning it would have punished the defendant for something a witness was accused of doing. So he says the judge's threat was absolutely outrageous, unethical, unlawful, and petty. Dershowitz also took issue with the fact that the public should have been able to see the judge in action, but because the case case is not being televised, the public has to rely on biased reporting of partisan journalists. He says when you watch CNN or MSNBC, you generally see an account of a trial that never took place. They spin the event so much that reality is totally distorted. Let me know if you guys agree. There's absolutely no good reason why a trial of this importance, or any trial, should not be televised live and in real time, because allowing the public to see the courts in action is the best guarantee of fairness. What do y'all think about that? But hey, Maran may be using pages from President Joe Biden's playbook. Just recently, the president used his executive privilege to stop the release of the audio from Department of Justice Special Counsel Robert Hur's interview with him. Why? Well, according to consultant and election law attorney Mark Weaver, Joe Biden's handlers desperately don't want Americans to hear the actual audio showing how genuinely confused and flustered he was when questioned by criminal investigators. He described Biden's claim of executive privilege as a campaign tactic cloaked in a faux constitutional claim. Now, if you guys remember, this report from Special Counsel Robert Hur, it made headlines as he described Biden as a sympathetic, well-meaning, elderly man with a poor memory. Among other lapses, Biden did not remember when he was vice president, and he did not remember even within several years when his son Beau died. Naturally, his campaign would try to hide that. But don't the American people have a right to know who they're voting for? Not to mention, it's been confirmed that the White House attorneys asked former Special Counsel Robert Hur to revise descriptions of President Joe Biden's memory lapses before the release of Hur's report, defending his decision to not bring charges against the commander-in-chief for retention of national security material. But what do you guys think about that? Do you feel like this Donald Trump trial and Biden's sneaky moves are connected? Drop your thoughts in the comments down below, guys. I'll make sure to read them before the next one. Appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for subscribing and liking the video, and I'll see you on the next one.